Hi all, welcome back to another lecture of DBMS, and in this lecture we will learn about relationships in ER diagrams. So we will learn types of relationship. In these four types of relationship, we'll learn about unary relationships, binary, ternary and recursive relationship. And then at last we'll see what is the difference between identifying versus non-identifying relationship. So stay tuned for the video because this video is going to be important again. And let's begin with the session with types of relationships. So relationships in data modeling enable a structured representation of complex interactions. So why relationship is important? But it is important when we are actually utilizing more complex tables, right? So to manage and present their structure in a good way, in a more simplified way, we need the relationship between those two or more entities. So basically for complex interactions we need a relationship. It also facilitates normalization. Normalization is basically to break down the complex table into smaller tables so that make it more simplified and ensure data integrity. So basically out of these four different types of relationship, the very first is unary relationship. So unary relationship means this is a type of relationship where an entity is related to itself. So let's suppose we have a table and we have a table with person name A, right? Age and mobile number, right? And this is the table for employee. So let's suppose person A and let's suppose one more attribute called manager. So person A is the manager of itself, right? For person B, person C. So A, B, C are the employees in the employee table. Along with that, A can be the manager of A, B, C all, right? So here this is called unary relationship where an entity is related to itself. So example, employee can be the manager itself and the employee subordinate itself. Second is binary relationship. So this relationship when two different types of entities. So this is a relationship between the two different entities. So basically two different tables. Let's suppose we have an employee table and we have a person table. Okay, and the instances are related to each other in of different entities. So this can be of many form like one-on-one relationship, one-to-many relationship, many-to-one or many-to-many. So all these comes under the binary relationship, which we have already learned in our previous lectures. Next is ternary relationship. So this occurs when three different types of entities interact with each other. It requires a separate table to store the associations. The example is, let's suppose we have a doctor, patient and hospital. Doctor entity stores all the information about the doctor, timings for what they are available and the specialization of the doctors. Patient include the list of patient and number of patient, and hospital will include the number of hospitals in that particular area which are available. So these are the three entities, and the relationship between three entities will be called as a ternary relationship. Next is higher order relationship or recursive relationship, you can say. This occurs when a relationship involves more than three entities, and it is less common and often broken down into multiple binary relationship, and you are going to see very rare this type of relationship, and in most of cases if it exists also, then we divide it into multiple binary relationship. So these are the four different types of relationship. Now let's understand and learn one by one in more detail. So first is unary relationship. So this exists when the association is maintained within the single entity. So when the instances are related to each other in the same entity is called the unary relationship. Example, when an employee within the employee entity is the manager for one or more employees, like A, B, C are the employees and A. A is the manager for all the employees in the employee table. So basically A is the attribute which are related to each other inside the same entity, and that is the example of unary relationship. Next is binary relationship. So it exists when two entities are associated in a relationship. So let's suppose we have a professor entity and we have a class entity. So one professor is allowed to they might allow to take one class, or they might allow to take multiple class. On that basis we will go with one or one or many relationship, right? So these are the most common types of relationship in database, and they represent straightforward connection in a relation database such as professor teaches. So this binary type of relationship can be one-on-one, one-to-many, many-to-one, and many-to-many relationship depending upon the situation and the scenarios. So basically in binary, two tables are related to each other. In unary, all the instances or any one instance are related are defining the relationship within the same entity. That is why it is called unary operator, a unary relationship. Next is ternary or higher degree relationship. In case of ternary, it exists when three or more entities are associated with each other. So from the name itself, ternary means three. So when three or more entities are associated, they form the ternary relationship. These involve three distinct entities and are crucial for modeling complex interaction that cannot be represented by binary. So basically this we use when the relationship cannot be defined in a binary relationship, then we go for ternary relationship. So example, doctor, patient and drug. So doctor basically writes the prescription, and here in ternary, doctor writes the prescription for a patient which specifies like which drug needs to be received by the patient, and the patient actually captures or receives the prescription and takes a medicine accordingly. So here all these three interaction of entities are very much important, and the relationship occurs in these three entities together. So when three entities comes for the relation to build the relationship, that is called ternary relationship. So now let's move on to a higher order or recursive relationship. So this type of relationship specify a type of unary relation where entities related to themselves in an hierarchy. So their sequence is in representing hierarchy and network within the same entity type. Or you can say when three or more than three, sorry, when more than three entities are related to each other, then we call it as a recursive relationship. So in this, basically you can see it can include the multiple unary, binary and ternary operators that are related to each other also. So that is why it is also called a hierarchy relationship. So here a professor, yeah, right? So professor might get married to another professor, right? So professor is now a husband or a wife of another professor as well. So there are two types, like the relationship exists within the same entity. So that is why it is the unary operator. Similarly, employee who can be the manager of another employee as well. So again, unary operator. Then a course, let's suppose we have some course A, and to complete the course, a prior course is also important. So then only a course A can be completed. So basically it is a prerequisite relationship or required relation. So all this basically, that's what it's saying. Recursive relationship are a specific type of unary relationship where entities relate to themselves in a hierarchy. So their significance is in representing hierarchy and network within the same entity type, which is useful in organizational structure, family trees or parent-child relationship. So that was all about the four different types of relationship. Now let's see the identifying relation and the non-identifying relationship. From the name itself, you can see identifying which those relationship can established where the dependent entity's existence is tied to parent entity. Basically, it is dependent entity and cannot exist without the parent entity. That is why it is identifying relation. Non-identifying does not need any parent entity to exist. It establishes a relationship where the dependent entity can exist independently also. So let's take the example of this book and chapter for the identifying. So in this case, you know that book consists of lot of chapters within it. If chapters are not there, book contains chapter that cannot exist without being dependent on the book. So if no chapter is there, book cannot exist, right? That is an example of identifying relationship. Another is orders and customer. So we know that if customer exists, they order the items, but order cannot exist without customers, right? So customer can exist without having order. So it's just the way of seeing it. Order cannot exist, but a customer can exist without order. That is why a customer is the non-identifying entity here. But in case of book and chapter, okay, if if you can say that chapter is not there, then book cannot exist. A book cannot be there if no chapter is there, right? So basically, book is the identifying relationship, and customer and owner is a non-identifying relationship. And yeah, that was all about the whole lecture. And I hope you learned the different types of relationship and the difference between the identifying and non-identifying relationship. That is all about the whole lecture. Let's meet in another lecture. Till then, keep learning. Take care of yourself and your family too.